don't know if this is something that comes to your attention much, but I've been thinking a lot lately about how we hear about the polarization of our culture, our political climate, our country, our world. Oftentimes we hear about this polarization. We've become so different and polarized. I'm a historian. I'm always a little skeptical of the claims like, this is the worst it's ever been, or the kids these days. I mean, what generation has not complained about something, saying that this is the worst? So I've been looking into this and trying to determine, is this really new, first of all? And is it something worsening or to be concerned about? Well, if we look at American history, we don't have to look very far to understand that we have always been of divided minds. And we've always had disagreements, ideological disagreements. We've always been divided in thought of any particular subject. In fact, there have been times that it has gotten very hostile and ugly and vitriolic. I mean, we literally had the Secretary of the Treasury fight a vice president with a duel and kill him. I mean, that's a thing that happened. So disagreements is not new. Being divided on any particular issue, also not new. The thing that I think there is an argument to be made that has increased in the last, let's say, 20 years is not the fact that we disagree with one another, but the tendency for the sides or the different parties to whatever opinion to vilify the other, to demonize the other. We have a very pervasive attitude of, well, you can agree with me and be right, or you can be wrong and be stupid. Or, I clearly know this is the right answer, and if you don't agree with me, you are evil. That, I think, is something that has not always been present to the degree that we are seeing these days. And we could get into a whole list of reasons why that may or may not be, and there's lots of people who are trying to study and figure out those type of questions. But my point this morning is that I don't think Jesus would buy into that. I don't think this is something he wants to characterize his followers. And I have evidence for that. And I would fully expect you to say, and where did you get that? I want to see it. Because, you know me, I'm all about checking our sources. So I want you to turn your attention to Matthew chapter 9. Jesus has just performed a healing of a blind man, a man born blind, and then healed a man who was unable to speak. And our narrator goes, Jesus traveled among all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues announcing the good news of the kingdom and healing every disease and every sickness. Now, when Jesus saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because they were troubled and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The size of the harvest is bigger than you can imagine, but there are few workers. Therefore, plead with the Lord of the harvest to send out workers for his harvest." He called his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits to throw them out and to heal every disease and every sickness. Here are the names of the 12 apostles. First, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew, the tax collector, James, the son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanian, and Judas, who betrayed Jesus. Jesus sent these 12 out and commanded them, "Don't go among the Gentiles or into a Samaritan city. Go instead to the lost sheep, the people of Israel. As you go, make this announcement: the kingdom of heaven has come near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those with skin diseases, and throw out demons. You received without having to pay, therefore give without demanding payment." Let us hear what the Spirit is speaking to God's people. There's a lot going on here, but here's what I keep focusing on. That listing of the 12. Well, first of all, did you notice that in the same paragraph, Matthew goes from calling them disciples to apostles? Disciples means students of, those who follow in the way of. Apostles means sent ones. This is the only time Matthew uses that word, apostles. So I think that is notable. It might be tempting then to just look at these and go, "Oh yeah, I recognize, yep. Or to go, "Oh, we've got to compare these lists with the other Gospels because they're not exactly the same." But I don't think that's the point here. And I think there's something really interesting that Matthew includes for us. Now, you probably noticed there was a couple of different names that appeared twice. There, like, a couple of different disciples have the same name. Simon, who's called Peter, and Simon the Canaanian. And there's James, the son of Zebedee, and James, the son of Alphaeus. So, like, there's some obvious reasons that there's some qualifiers there. And typically, those are specified as son of the father's name, or a place name, someone from something. But we have two in this list who don't fit that pattern who stand out as a little differently. Well, and then obviously the Judas who betrayed Jesus. This is clearly written in hindsight, knowing that the readers know the rest of the story. But besides that one, there's these two. Simon the Canaanian. Now, if you look through that, and the first time you read that, you might, your brain's going to try to make sense of that. Where have I heard something like that before? Maybe it's the same or similar to Canaanite. There's the land of Canaan, or that city, Cana of Galilee. Maybe it's from that, but it's not. The word for Canaanite, someone from the land of Canaan, is Canaanite, not Canaanian. And we know from our historical contextual studies that this word comes from an Aramaic word, and it's an identifier with a certain party, not necessarily like a formal political organization, but a certain point of view. Some other translations just call him Simon the Zealot. So just to back up and for context here, all of these men are native to this region of Judea and Galilee, this area around Jerusalem. And most of the people in that area are Jewish, and they are occupied and ruled by the Roman Empire. So they don't have their own government, so to speak. They are under Roman occupation. And as you might imagine, with any group of people, there would be some different opinions, different reactions to this state of affairs. One potential reaction or position on this issue was the party of the Sadducees. They were a little bit more elite in society, wealthier, had more resources. And the group of the Sadducees, they had worked out kind of a power-sharing agreement. I mean, it's not equal, but it was a way that they could still exercise some authority over their fellow Jewish people, and that was good enough to satisfy Rome. So they were, kind of cooperative, but they had their own thing. Another position on the issue was that there should be no cooperation with the occupiers, none whatsoever. So the party of the Zealots believed that the Jewish people should rebel under Roman authority, that they should not accept this state of being occupied, and that they should fight, if necessary, to free themselves from this empire. And in fact, there had been several revolts over the previous few hundred years. So, in his list, Matthew is pointing out that there is a zealot, Simon the Zealot. And then 3 names back from that, you have Matthew the tax collector. Well, what would be the absolute opposite end of the spectrum from complete rebellion of the Roman Empire would be basically full cooperation, signing up to work for them. Like, I'll join the administration. A tax collector. Matthew and Simon are as far apart on this issue as you could possibly get. And I find that fascinating, that Jesus calls this inner circle, this 12 who are going to be sent out in his name to do the exact same work that he's been doing. And he calls people who absolutely think the other one is dead wrong, unfaithful. How could you possibly have that opinion? Notice that nowhere in the gospel does the author tell us that Jesus said, "Hey, everybody, Matthew, are you cool if we invite Simon the Zealot to join our group? Like, he's going to be your new buddy." Nowhere do we see Jesus asking any of the disciples if they want to invite anybody else. There's definitely no voting or democratic selection of disciples here. Jesus calls who Jesus wants to call. And if you are already on the team, what is the correct answer? Yes, sir. That's it. No debate. No, but, or I'm not going to sit next to, or don't you know how evil? None. None of that. Now, I'm sure they had some interesting dinner conversation. But Jesus deliberately chose to include these two among all the others. Certainly, this is to indicate, as far as the East is from the West, all across the spectrum. And he sends them out to do the work. Jesus did not buy into the social norms that said you have to belong to this group or this group. I don't think he would have at all bought into the way we think about things today, as often in these binaries. And too often what we're told is you have to believe everything in this one, or you're not in the group. And it's treated as if they're just a right or wrong. There's only two options. And you have to be all this camp or all that camp. And I don't think Jesus would buy into that one bit. I don't think he would. I don't think that Jesus would support this idea that if you're not in, this right opinion group, then you are evil and unreachable, and we can't work with you. not according to what we see here. Throughout the Gospels, Jesus breaks traditions and social expectations. He eats with tax collectors and prostitutes. He shakes hands with people with skin diseases, lepers, they called them. That was a no, 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 no. But Jesus, he didn't buy into that. Jesus was constantly calling these people together, not saying you have to agree with everything the other one believes. In fact, Jesus didn't have a creed or a statement that you had to sign on to in order to be a disciple. You simply had to choose to follow. I think that's really powerful example for us today. And if the church could be an example of what this looks like in our world, where we don't shun people because we believe differently, we sit at the table with those who we couldn't disagree with more. We serve alongside one another, recognizing that we don't get to pick who's on the team. We don't call people to Jesus' table. Jesus calls who he wants to call. I think that would be a truly amazing countercultural example of something we're not seeing a lot of these days. I think that's where the church is called to lead here. So I hope that you will consider how it is that you might have bought into an either or a false dichotomy, and how Jesus might be asking you to extend an invitation to sit beside and listen to those very different from yourself. And what a difference that might make to the world around us. I think it would speak volumes. Thank you so much for choosing to be in worship with us this morning to begin your week in worship. We thank you, whether you've been here or joined us online. Thank you. Thank you for making us more the body of Christ that we are intended to be. If you are worshiping with us this morning and you are feeling a nudge to take a next step in your journey of faith, if you don't know what exactly that step might be, my contact information is on the bottom of the prayer request page. I would love to visit with you and help you discern where God is leading you next. And if you would like to make a decision or announce that and share that decision this morning, whether that's to claim your faith in Christ for the first time, or to reaffirm your faith if it has been a while and you've been on a side quest, or whether that's you want to join this faith community and be a part of what God is doing here. We would be honored to have you. So if you'd like to make one of those decisions this morning, please come and share that with me as we stand and sing together. Thank you again for choosing to begin your week in worship with us. I pray that you have a wonderful week, that you see where God is working in this world, maybe even in a surprising place, and that you know that all are invited to join in this way of loving and living and serving one another. Go in peace.